In cities east and west, from bustling capitals to quiet neighborhoods, a quiet revolution hums beneath the everyday pulse of life. In Parisian cafes, Amsterdam streets, Lagos's markets, and the suburbs of Detroit, something remarkable is unfolding. Islam is burgeoning in places that once seemed impervious to such change. Many communities are waking to a reality that was once easy to overlook. Within their own families, friendships, and workplaces, more and more people are embracing Islam. A fabric once woven with differing threads is shifting, evolving, and slowly taking on the contours of Muslim identity and practice. It isn't simply a matter of demographics, though the world has witnessed explosive population growth in Muslim-majority nations. From 2010 to 2020, the global Muslim population grew more in absolute numbers than all other major religious groups combined, adding 347 million adherents in a single decade, a remarkable surge by any measure. But in modernity, another current runs alongside these numbers: the story of conversion, of personal spiritual journeys that lead individuals from all walks of life towards Islam. In the United States and across Europe, thousands every year choose to take the Shahada, the declaration of faith. In the UK alone, estimates suggest over 100,000 has been added to Muslim ranks in recent decades through conversion. This story is not merely statistical. It is deeply human. It speaks of lives in search of something more enduring than what the secular age often offers. And in that search, believe it or not, many find a voice, a community, and a way of being in Islam that resonates more profoundly than what they left behind. To understand why people are drawn to Islam, one must look not just at numbers, but at the nature of what Islam offers, at its soul and its structure. At its core lies Tawhid, absolute monotheism, the conviction that there is no deity but God, uncluttered by intermediaries, statues, or priests. It is a concept both elegantly simple and philosophically powerful, an answer to the yearning for unity in the divine that resonates in an age of fragmentation and sensory overload. Many converts point to this clarity as one of their first attractions. Islam's worldview is comprehensive. It doesn't segment life into sacred and secular compartments. Rather, it offers a total way of life, guiding worship, ethics, family, economics, discipline, and community in seamless continuity. For someone adrift in a world where truth can feel relative and purpose uncertain, this unity of meaning can be compelling. There's also a rationality embedded in the faith. Belief is not blind, but paired with reflection and reasoning. The very structure of prayer, fasting, charity, and pilgrimage encourages engagement not just of the spirit, but of the mind and body. For many modern seekers, this balance feels like a harmony they have longed for in a life otherwise fragmented by distraction. Equally magnetic is Islam's moral rigor, a disciplined framework that demands integrity, compassion, and accountability, not just in aspiration, but in everyday action. Each of the 5 pillars acts as a rhythmic reminder of purpose, identity, and community. These aren't abstract ideals, but lived realities that shape a believer's days. And then there's the strength of community, the Ummah, a global fellowship of believers that transcends race, nationality, and class. For many converts, the moment they step into a mosque or sit with fellow Muslims, they feel something rare in contemporary life: belonging, not nostalgia, not merely comfort, but a sense of being held by shared values and shared devotion. This combination, clear purpose, moral structure, community, and meaning, creates a spiritual ecosystem that many find not merely attractive, but transformative. If the qualities above open the door for Islam, the supreme force that pulls the heart across the threshold is justice. Islamic teaching places justice, both divine and human, at the very center of its message. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes that all human beings are equal in the sight of God, judged not by race, nationality, lineage, or wealth, but by righteousness and moral conduct. This principle resonates powerfully in a an era of widening inequality and fractured societies where many feel abandoned by economic systems and betrayed by political ones. Contemporary scholarship underscores that principles of social justice, human dignity, and equality are deeply embedded within Islamic teachings, promoting a moral community in which welfare is collective and dignity is inherent rather than earned. This radical egalitarianism echoed in the Prophet Muhammad's declaration that no Arab has superiority over a non-Arab, nor a white person over a black person. Today speaks to people exhausted by rigid hierarchies and invisible ceilings as powerfully as it ever has. For many converts, Islam's promise of justice is not abstract theology, it's a lived ethic. Everything promotes justice. Zakat is not optional generosity, but obligation. Shared fasting collapses class distinctions. Communal prayer erases rank. These practices function as social equalizers, binding believers into a brotherhood and sisterhood that directly challenges systems of caste, class, and exclusion. Where other religions often orient themselves around different demands, Islam's synthesis stands apart. In Judaism, religious life is structured primarily around the law, a sacred covenant governing conduct and identity within a defined community. In Christianity, the moral center often tilts toward belief and salvation, where faith in Christ outweighs structured social enforcement. Islam, by contrast, fuses belief, law, and ethics into a social reality, where justice is not merely believed, but enacted and monitored within the community itself. The distinction becomes especially potent in the modern world. Across continents, people live under systems that quietly condemn them as untouchable, abandoned, or without hope. Migrants in Europe treated as permanent outsiders. Racial minorities in wealthy democracies locked into cycles of surveillance and poverty. Lower castes in parts of South Asia burdened by inherited stigma. Citizens under autocratic regimes stripped of voice and dignity. In these conditions, Islam's insistence that human worth is not negotiated by the state, society, or birth becomes profoundly disarming. For such individuals, Islam does not promise instant prosperity, but it restores something arguably more fundamental: moral equality. It tells the unseen that they are seen. It tells the discarded that they are accountable only to God and no other human. It replaces social exile with belonging and despair with structure. Justice, in this sense, becomes a cushion against freefall, a moral floor beneath those whom modern systems allow to keep falling. Many Western converts explicitly cite this Islamic ethic as central to their choice, the sense that a religion attempts imperfectly but earnestly to live what it preaches through charity, mutual responsibility, and communal accountability speaks to a deep hunger for meaning expressed not in slogans, but in justice in action. I really do appreciate you taking the time and watching the Kandidi Chronicles. Please do join our community by subscribing so that you don't miss out on any content regarding the Arab and Muslim history, identity, and modern condition. And if you really do enjoy the channel week in and week out and would like to support us even further, please do join us at our YouTube membership program as well as on Patreon. Thanks again. Modernity brought astonishing progress. Technology reshaped possibility and science revolutionized life. Yet, in lived experience, many feel spiritually adrift and socially alienated. Western societies grapple with inequality, culture wars, loneliness, and disillusionment with institutional religion. Dictatorships that are more commonly malevolent cling to power while denying dignity. Both produce many of the same consequences: a loss of purpose, fractured community, and leadership that fails to inspire moral imagination. Consider a divorced single mother in a declining British town, raised secular, estranged from family, one rent increase away from homelessness, who enters a mosque seeking emergency help, not faith. She finds rent covered through zakat, consistent childcare support, and a woman's circle that restores dignity rather than pity. Or the middle-aged factory worker in the American Midwest laid off after decades of labor, numbing the silence with alcohol, who encounters Islam through a coworker and discovers discipline, sobriety, and brotherhood, or the university student burdened by debt and existential drift who finds in Islam structure, moral clarity, and purpose. In this void, Islam presents itself as a refuge, not only from spiritual emptiness, but from societies that habitually fail to live up to their own promises. People do not embrace a faith in a vacuum. They embrace it in dialogue with the conditions around them. When the political order disappoints, when economic divides widen, and when cultural narratives feel hollow, millions find in Islam a coherent way of being, one that unites personal devotion with communal solidarity. And yet, it must be said with candor, social failures lie not within the religion alone, but within humans everywhere who fail to practice what any tradition teaches about justice, compassion, and mutual respect. To reduce Islam to politics, to violence, or to crisis narratives is to misunderstand both the faith's internal claims and its diverse global reality. As the world's religious landscape shifts, the narrative about Islam must shift with it, not into caricature or fear, but into understanding. Too long have Muslims been cast as the other in popular imagination, a disruptive force, a threat, a phenomenon of anxiety. This reductive framing erases the individual human stories, the seekers, the scholars, the families, and yes, those who find in Islam a path of moral seriousness, community, and purpose. A religion can't be defined solely by headlines or politics any more than a person can be known only by their worst moments. To understand Islam's rapid growth, both demographically and in the hearts of individuals, we must balance the statistical reality with deeper insight into what draws people, comforts them, and inspires them. Islam is not a monolith. It is a tapestry of cultures, interpretations, and lived experiences. The fear-based narratives that have echoed for centuries of Muslims as inherently violent, backward, or incompatible with modern life are simplistic echoes of a world that longs for something more nuanced and understanding. At its best, Islam offers a balanced lifestyle, one that nurtures spirit, mind, and body, that calls for justice and community, that invites personal discipline and collective care. To write it off as a threat is not only inaccurate, it blinds us to the very real human yearning that underlies its appeal. The world is changing. Religions ebb and flow, but in understanding these transformations, we must be humble, attentive, and compassionate with truth, nuance, and respect.